Aldeguer starting from second place. Some unfamiliar names in unfamiliar positions on the grid. So the identity of these 9-point scorers, if you can predict them, you're a braver man than me.
First time we've had two Aprilias on the front row of a MotoGP grid since the Saxon Ring round last year when it was Ralph Fernandez, and with his then Trackhouse teammate Miguel Oliveira. Aleix Espargaro doing so much sterling work behind the scenes with Taka Nakagami, of course, those two in tandem, key components of this resurgence by HRC. Luca Marini, he had his best Friday on a Honda yesterday, directly in the Q2 in the last 5 Grand Prix. Luca Marini, that's his equal best, Honda qualifying in 6th place, of course, a former pole starter here in Mandalika. You can just see there from this grid picture, off in the distance, just over the hillsides there, just how dark and grey some of the heavy cloud cover has gathered. A bit of a respite for the riders and mechanics and teams and personnel on the grid, because when the sun is out, when we've had so much clear blue sky here this weekend, it has been baking, or it has been scorching. One of the toughest tests for both rider and machine posed by this 4.3 kilometre Mandalika circuit. Low grip, of course, and with the hot, humid conditions as well to factor in. We've already seen a whole raft of crashes across all 3 classes so far this weekend. Of course, there were 2 yesterday afternoon for 93 Marc Marquez, who's as deep as he has been on the grid for exactly 1 year. 9th place, Marc started last year's Japanese Grand Prix, went on the Gresini Ducati. Work to do, and you have to say he was very sort of, I'm not going to say pessimistic about his chance of being in the podium battle this afternoon, Lewis, but yesterday he said, I'm not going to jump from 11th on Friday to winning or being in victory contention in the sprint. A rather modest expectation of Marc yesterday. Place, which, when you look at how deep he is on the grid, will be actually a pretty good rescue.
Yeah, I guess he'll be just trying to take whatever points he can from this sprint. Not that he needs the points anymore, of course, but any result that Marc Marquez can take out of this sprint, any points, I think will be a good rescue job from how his weekend started. Well, only one Trackhouse Aprilia starts this Tissot sprint, but it starts on the very front row of the grid. What can Ralph Fernandez do from there? Davide Brivio speaking to Jack.
Yeah, huge. Few laps coming up, 13 for Ralph Fernandez. How much does Raul need a big result here, Davide?
Yeah, it's not that we need. I mean, we have to take the opportunity to start in the first row. It doesn't happen so often. Of course, we're not used to that, maybe, but I think this weekend is a little bit special. We have a good pace. He always been fast through the sessions, and also even the lap in the qualifying was already on a third laps on a tire. So there is a possibility to do a good result. And maybe try to follow Marco, that here is very, very fast. And yeah, let's see, he's quite exciting, quite confident, so let's see.
The last time we saw him in podium contention in the sprint Barcelona last year, how much do you think that day will be in his mind?
I don't know, yeah, good point, we didn't talk about, but I think he's for sure is more mature now, more experienced compared to that. But let's see, you know, you never know, depend how the race develops, how you start and whatever. So we did a good start in this morning when he made a practice start, so let's see, let's try to repeat again.
Thanks, Davide, good luck.
You're welcome, thank you.
Yeah, in that dramatic Barcelona sprint last year, Fernandez one of 3 riders that crashed out, I believe, including Brad Binder and Pecco Bagnaia. Here is then your grid Sturmin Aldeguer to become our youngest ever sprint winner.
Benteke, Aldeguer, Fernandez the front row, Rins Acosta, Marini the second row. Acosta going to the grid at least with the hard front tyre on. That's the only deviation in terms of rubber. Alex Marquez, Fabio Quartararo and Marc Marquez, a heavyweight third row ahead of Oliveira. His best qualifying of 2025. Fabio Di Giannantonio, who came through Q1, and Joan Mir 12th. Cursing traffic. Frankie Morbidelli missed out in Q1, he's 13th, ahead of Jack Miller and Brad Binder. Like his fellow KTM teammate, he's gone for the hard front tyre. Pecco Bagnaia down in 16th place, ahead of Enea Bastianini, Johan Zarco and Sokiat Chancho, with the LTR Hondas bringing up the rear. Of course, we've already lost Maverick Vinales this weekend, and Ayagura and Jorge Martin withdrew before the weekend began.
Another tough weekend so far for Johan Zarco. 2 crashes yesterday afternoon, qualified out of the top 10 now in 5 of the last 6 Grand Prix. Oh well, Here is the original Aura farming legend, I guess we could say. Of course, we saw when Marc Marquez won the German Grand Prix at the Sachsenring, back on the throne as the Saxon King. Well, this was the celebration, which Marc so famously copied back in the day. I don't think we're going to see too much Aura farming from Marc in this upcoming sprint from 9th place on the grid. Well, what a performance it has been so far this weekend for Alex Rins on the factory Yamaha. He fires away from a best ever grid position on an M1 in 4th place. Fabio Quartararo, middle of the 3rd row in 8th. Let's get the thoughts of the Yamaha boss, Paolo Perfessio. Is he Aura farming as well, Jack?
Not yet. I'm sure he's hoping to be at the end of the Grand Prix because what a turnaround it's been for Alex. Paolo, it has been a really, really tough year so far for Alex. But could that qualifying performance be the spark that he needed to get back on track and up fighting where he belongs?
We take the positive of all the weekend because Alex has been immediately fast from Friday, and super happy first of all for him. And let's see, let's try to build a solid race. Let's start to really also move a bit the rankings, score some points. Alex is a very fast rider, we know this, and it's about putting the pieces together.
We know that this is a very peculiar, very unique circuit with unique conditions, but Alex said yesterday he's made a small change to his riding style. So do you think that this is sort of green shoots of recovery? This is positive signs that we can see this more often from Alex in the closing stages of the year?
Yeah, for sure Alex has started to work in a bit of a different way since a few races. As I always say, there is no magic in this sport. You need to build the performance. Also, when you start to change something, you need to get used to it. And apparently, this is paying off. For sure, today we need to enjoy where we are. And as I said, I really wish him and to us 2 solid races.
Absolutely. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Thanks to Yamaha boss Paolo Perfessio. Maybe they will be doing a bit of Aura farming later on if Alex Rins does convert that 4th place into a medal. Alex Rins, well, points in sprints have been few and far between so far in 2025. In fact, there's just been one 8th place at the French Grand Prix in Le Mans.
So here is Raul Fernandez then, who has, I guess, succeeded already in some of his aims for this weekend when he talked about wanting to be more ambitious in qualifying and take some more risks. Well, he's got himself on the front row of the grid for the first time in 2025. A major result, certainly potentially possible for Raul today. Here's potentially one of the big threats to the 3 on the front row finishing on the podium. Pedro Acosta, so strong here last year, finished 2nd, of course, to Jorge Martin in the Grand Prix. We know qualifying isn't always his strong suit, so Acosta starting on the middle of row 2 usually indicates that he's going to be a podium threat.
Absolutely gorgeous setting, isn't it? This spectacular, jaw-dropping island of Lombok. Well, it's been a brilliant weekend so far for Fermin Aldeguer, firing away from the front row of the grid for the first time in his MotoGP career. Let's get the thoughts of his crew chief, Frankie Carcelli, who joins Jack.
Yeah, we've already seen in his young MotoGP career, Frankie, on used tyres, on used rubber. For me, he's one of the best out there. So to be on the front row of the grid, you must be really optimistic of 2 big races coming up.
Yeah, I mean, it's his first time that he's actually starting, I think, above row 3, so it'll be interesting to see. It'll be a different way, you know, he's used to very high pressures, very high temperatures, the tyres, so we've been working hard on this 1 lap pace on Friday because it's not that we throw races away, but it's very, very difficult in modern MotoGP when everything warms up to go forward, and I honestly don't think our pace is that much different from Motegi. The difference is we're starting about 5 rows further up, so fingers crossed we can have a good one.
You say first time starting up here on the first 2 rows of the grid. That obviously changed how you attack the opening lap. Have you spoken to him about the changes he's going to have in those opening stages?
Yeah, I think it's all about experience at the moment for him. You know, we worked so hard the first part of the year, end of the race, tyre life. Now we're focusing more on 1 lap starts, and it's just like we said to him, it's like you've got a jigsaw and there's sort of 1 piece missing, and I'm hoping we found it here, so let's see.
Fingers crossed. Good luck.
Cheers, buddy.
Yeah, big expectations from Fermin Aldeguer. He was a very early faller this weekend at turn 8 in FP1. It's been some response for the 20-year-old. 4th time this season he's qualified inside the top 6, although it is his first front row. Tomorrow, of course, he gets the chance to be the first rookie to win in MotoGP since Jorge Martin all the way back in 2021. Fabio Di Gianantonio, well, he came through that heavyweight Q1 with Marc Marquez. Marc made a better fist of it in terms of Q2 than did you, who finds himself on the middle of the 4th row in 11th place. Rather interestingly, either Marc nor Gian Antonio were able to better their pace in that second qualifying session than their pace in Q1. Surf's up. What a spectacular shot that is. The catamaran in the background. Waves breaking on the rocks. Well then, there's once again high hopes that Honda can be in the podium fight, just as Joan Mir was last weekend in the sprint over in Motegi. Luca Marini 6th, and then Joan Mir in 12th place. What can the Honda boys do? Let's get the thoughts of test rider Aleix Espargaro, who joins Jack.
Yeah, great to see Aleix down here on the grid. Imagine it's a sign of the positivity and the progress Honda have made, that there's maybe a bit of frustration. It's only 6th and 12th for Luca and Joan on the grid.
Yeah, we know how tight MotoGP is. We missed a couple of times. Also, Joan, unfortunately, he got the yellow flags on the last lap, so we missed the chance to put both bikes in second row. But we have very good pace, especially Luca is brilliant this weekend. I think he have the pace to fight for the podium 1 week after the podium of Joan. So yeah, progress is clear.
Good luck, have fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, the progress is very clear indeed. Great job being done behind the scenes by Romano Albiciano and the army of Honda engineers. We just caught there another glimpse of 29-year-old Spaniard Alex Rins, who is due some kind of top result, isn't he, Rins? He has not scored a point since the Sunday Grand Prix at Balaton Park, 3 rounds in a row, where Rins has not even troubled the point scoring place in either the sprint or the Grand Prix. Catch him if you can. Who can stop Marco Bezzecchi? Talk about being a red-hot bookie's favourite for this 13-lap sprint and the Grand Prix tomorrow. Perfect timing as we looked at Bez about to start from pole position for the 3rd time in the last 6 Grand Prix. Are we dreaming maybe of a double Aprilia podium with Ralph Fernandez on the front row as well? Let's get the thoughts of the boss, Paolo Bonora, who's with Jack.
Yeah, just a few Grand Prix ago we were saying that Marco had had the weekend of his MotoGP career with that brilliant performance at Misano, but he looks to be even a step ahead of that here so far, Paolo.
Yeah, all-time record here. He was immediately in confidence since yesterday morning. He loves this track, so he showed a good race pace. To be honest, no expectation as usual, but to be realistic, he feels very good with the bike and here.
Cloud cover, a little bit windy. It's cooler than what it has been for all of the weekend so far. Will that have any impact?
Yeah, a little bit cooler compared to the previous session, but with the soft front in the tire and the rear one, probably could be an help for the sprint.
Thanks, Paolo. Good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, as always, to Aprilia boss Paolo Bonora. Answers on a postcard, please, to explain what on earth is going on right now with Bagnaia. This time last weekend, he'd already taken pole position in Motegi. He was just about to complete a dominant start-to-finish victory in the sprint, which he would then follow up with a start-to-finish victory in the Grand Prix. Fast forward less than a week to this Indonesian Grand Prix. Bagnaia's the tale of the tape so far for the Italian. 17th in both sessions yesterday, 13th in their P2 this morning, 16th on the grid. What already a massive plummet down the order for Bagnaia in less than 7 days.
Yeah, the revival that we thought was real for Pecco Bagnaia in Japan has been already brought to something of a screeching halt, although whether this weekend proves to be the anomaly or whether Motegi was, I guess time will tell for Pecco Bagnaia. He only took some solace yesterday from the fact that it wasn't him alone on the Ducati that were struggling. They all collectively were struggling. Who needs superheroes when there's Marquez? Well, he is a superhero in many respects. The road he's been on to get back to MotoGP World title glory once again. Life as world champion hasn't exactly been easy so far. We can hear from another MotoGP World Champion, 3-time MotoGP World Champion Jorge Lorenzo on the grid with Jack.
Yeah, it's great to see Jorge here in Indonesia. Weird weekend so far. Can you understand anything that's been going on? Because we've been struggling. I'd say it's been a very weird weekend. Can you understand what's been going on?
Well, it's a special track with a special conditions and tarmac, special grip, so it's always difficult. Surprisingly, Marc looks like he's not comfortable with the bike and with the conditions, and he crashed 2 times.
And for the opposite, Aprilia and Bezzecchi, especially, they are very strong. So when Bezzecchi is convinced, it's difficult to beat. So, but let's see. Always in MotoGP, you never know what can happen.
Just a few days after Mark wrapped up the World Championship, when you came back to racing action after achieving the ultimate goal, how difficult was it to maintain the focus, maintain that ambition?
Well, as Mark say before starting the weekend, now we see a different Mark, more calm, more mentally. He don't want to do crazy things. He's more mature and he don't want to crash and get injured. So I think we will see a different Mark than some years ago, that he wanted to extra win when he achieved the championship. So I think the mentality and his words will be the reality. And if he's struggling like today, he will show calm, you know.
Thanks, Jorge. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks to Jorge Lorenzo. Back in the day, Lorenzo versus Marquez, there were some titanic battles between those two Spanish superstars, wasn't there? Yeah, I mean, Marc Marquez has already got the big reward in 2025, already crowned world champion, so you do wonder whether he's going to be a bit risk averse. Certainly in this afternoon sprint over 13 laps, just got the impression that Mark wants to get this Indonesian Grand Prix out the weekend as quickly as possible. He said yesterday, this is not my circuit. Never really has had much luck, never really had much speed around this 4.3 kilometre circuit. The Aprilia certainly have those so far this weekend. Raul Fernandez on the front row of the grid for just the third time in his 75th MotoGP start. Middle of the front row. On the front row for the very first time in MotoGP, looking to be our youngest ever sprint winner is Fermin Aldeguer, but he has been superb, supreme so far here in Mandalika. Marco Bezzecchi on pole for Aprilia. We know already who is our 2025 MotoGP World Champion, Marc Marquez, wrapping up his 7th Premier Class title last weekend in Motegi. What we don't know is who's going to be the dominant force this weekend in Mandalika. So far it has been Marco Bezzecchi, who has stepped up to the plate and been the clear #1 star so far here in this Grand Prix of Indonesia. A record-breaking pole position this morning for the factory Aprilia rider. First and one so far and only 128 lap of this 4.3 kilometre Lombok circuit. On the front row of the grid, a bit of a shake-up of the order, of the established order in 2025 here so far in Mandalika. No great surprise to see Bezzecchi on pole position. It's his 3rd pole in the last 6 Grand Prix, but a few surprise names just behind him on the grid. Fermin Aldeguer, big moment for the 20-year-old rookie, starting from the front row for the first time. Does history beckon for the Gresini racing rider as he looks to convert that 2nd place on the grid and be our youngest ever sprint winner? Raul Fernandez, a rare front row start for Trackhouse Aprilia. Aprilia clearly has been the bike to be on so far this weekend with their 2 RSGPs, both on the front row. Alex Rins, well, he heads row 2 in 4th place on an excellent weekend so far for the factory Yamaha rider. The warm-up lap underway in what are very, very warm conditions. Look at that ambient temperature, almost getting close to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The beach and the ocean straddle this wonderful Pertamina Mandalika International Circuit. Marco Bezzecchi, massive Prix sprint favourite to convert That 7th MotoGP pole position into what will be just his 3rd ever sprint success. A reminder, it's been a disastrous day, a dismal weekend so far for the factory Ducati team. Marc Marquez, the world champion, going from his lowest grip position in 12 months, 9th place. Back in the 3rd row goes Marc, and 7 places behind him on the grid is double world champion Pecco Bagnaia. Of course, he was untouchable, wasn't he, last weekend at the Japanese Grand Prix in Motegi. Look at those numbers as far as Marc is concerned. 5 rounds still remaining in 2025, and he's over 200 points clear of his next rival in the championship. That's brother Alex. Keep an eye on the Gresini Racing rider going from the head of row 3 in 7th place. Rins, Acosta and Marini, they've slotted in onto that 2nd row of the grid. Marco Bezzecchi then, a bit of a kiss on the tank of his factory Aprilia. So he can convert this pole position into a sprint success as far as Aprilia are concerned. Lights out then, and we're racing in the sprint here in Mandalika. It's a brilliant soft that maiden front row MotoGP by Fabian Alligator. Best from pole position. It's going the wrong way, isn't he? He's about to be passed by Alex Marquez, who started down in 7th place. It's Marini who's come from the back of the 2nd row in 6th, that briefly led the sprint. Alligator back out the front as he was on that run down to the 1st corner. Fernandez now tries to tough it out around the outside of Marini, going through turns 2 and 3. Fernandez back up into 2nd place, but a disaster. A howler for Bez off the line.
I was about to say, how did Marini get to the lead from there? He managed to get through. Look at the lead that Aldeguer's pulling out. Marco Bezzecchi is 8th. He's behind both of the Marquez brothers.
Oh, shocking start for Bez. First real mistake we've seen from the Italian all weekend. He has not put a foot wrong until the biggest moment really of the weekend so far. Here comes Acosta on the inside of Fernandez. Lovely move.
Marquez into Rins.
Marquez sideswipes Rins on the factory Yamaha into turn 10. Alex Rins, who rejoins on circuit, almost colliding Bastianini further down. Rins then, having started 4th, back in 18th, only Chantra behind him.
Both of the factory Yamahas are right down the back of the field. Something's happened to Quartararo clearly on this first lap too, because he dropped back off the line. He was last coming through the 1st sector.
Alex Rins is now in that last place. 19 runners, of course, now with Vinales' withdrawal before the lunch break. Bezzecchi then with an awful lot of work to do. He's recovered up into 6th place. Yellow flags out now in the 4th sector. Aldeguer's made a big mistake. Aldeguer was really what? Did he took the front going into turn 16, because now Fernandez and Acosta are all on his rear tyre.
It was Chantra that crashed. Is this all right? Just struggling to build the temperature up in their tyres on this first lap of the sprint. Aldeguer leads then. Acosta coming through again on Ralph Fernandez into turn 1. Tell you what though, Bezzecchi back in 6th. We've got a sprint on our hands now.
Aldeguer was almost 4.5 tenths clear of Fernandez as they came through that 3rd sector. So he made a monumental mistake, didn't he? Going into turn 15 or 16, it looked like. Didn't cost him the lead as Chantra walks away from his first lap crash. Aldeguer then, Acosta back up into 2nd place. Good battle he's having with the track out of Aprilia of Fernandez.
Yeah, the two Murcians then currently leading the way. Then it's Ralph Fernandez in 3rd. Marini then after his extraordinary start back to 4th. Alex Marquez 5th. But Marco Bezzecchi is still very much in this sprint. He can still win this from there with the pace that he's got. He needs to clear Alex Marquez though.
That's Oliveira finding a way through on Juan Mir further down the field. The incident involving Rins and Marc is currently being looked at under investigation. That was of course on lap 1 at turn 10. Aldeguer then now through the high-speed left-hander of 12. They'll keep it on the left-hand side of the tyre now through 13. Right then through 14. 4th gear. That's Bez working his way back through. Marc Marquez has been handed a long lap penalty. It's just flashing on our screens. So for the contact with Alex Rins on lap 1 up at turn 10. Marc Marquez, his weekend goes from bad to worse. He's got to come through the long lap.
That's going to drop him out of the points, no question about that. So this is it, coming into turn 10. It's the battle for, was at the time, 6th place. Marc comes up the inside of Alex Rins. In the end, just goes into the side of Alex Rins there. Runs them both wide and out of road. Rins now all the way down to the back of the field. And Marc Marquez, due to irresponsible riding, is going to have to serve a long lap penalty shortly.
Now then, here's Bezzecchi. Bez has got back through on Marini, although he's in a little bit hot. Marini was just able to run his normal line through the 1st corner. He just has to be patient here, doesn't he, Bezzecchi? Immediately, Marc finds himself into that long lap penalty on the outside of turn 3. He drops back in just in front of Jack Miller's Prima Pamac Yamaha. So Marc Marquez is down in 30.
He's going to struggle to get back up to the points from there. So difficult. Of course, made all that progress on lap 1. He's undone all that hard work. So it's going to be useful now to gauge the gap from Aldeguer back to Bezzecchi. Here he comes then on Luca Marini. This is for 4th position. Again, though, he goes ever so slightly wide. So difficult to outbrake that Honda. And Marini goes back through. At the start of this lap, Aldeguer was 1.6 seconds ahead of Bez.
Turn 1 and now turn 10. Bez has gone on the inside of Marini, albeit very, very briefly, because he's just charging that little bit hot. We're looking on board now from Bezzecchi's factory in Prix, directly ahead to Marini, who's proving a bit of a pest right now, isn't he, for his VR46 Academy colleague. You can just see there, Aldeguer, at the moment he's just over half a second clear of Acosta now. We come into this final sector. Slow speed, down to 65 kilometers an hour as you go through turn 60. That's where Aldeguer made the big mistake at the end of lap 1. More yellow flags out in the 4th split. And it looks like Bastianini has tumbled out of contention. He was way down the order anyway. Pecco Bagnaia, 17th at the moment, 17th on the road. Bastianini,
yeah, it's only 17 running.
Dear me, what was going on with Pecco Bagnaia? It was the beast that crashed, and that now means that Pecco Bagnaia is dead last in this sprint.
This is getting scruffy now for Bezzecchi. He's had another go into turn 1 as Bastianini stomps away, fortunately without need of the stretcher that the marshals were carrying. But this is 3 times now that Bezzecchi's had a go at Marini. He's now 2 seconds behind Fermin Aldeguer. And he's gonna, if he wants to win this sprint, he's going to have to pass that Honda quickly.
Aldeguer looking pretty good, regrouping after that first lap mistake. Bezzecchi's going to have another pop, isn't he, here? Marini up into turn 10 we go. He's tried this move before. Can he make it this time around? It's just a little bit of a block pass. I think, no, he's wide again. He is wide again. He just cannot find a way through, can he, on Luca Marini. Marini, we know, is so good on the front end of that factory Honda. And at the moment, this is just giving Aldeguer, Acosta, Fernandez and co that little bit of a breathing space. Bezzecchi clearly is faster than Marini, but he can't make the move stick.
Can't outbrake him, and also you've got to go off the racing line to make overtakes around here, which we know from previous history is so notoriously difficult. He's going to have to get creative here and try and make a move that isn't really a move and just force Marini out of the way, because he's losing not only over a sprint win, but potentially a podium too.
It was the 3rd crash of the weekend for Paul Rodinei. Bastianini was having a miserable time here in Mandalika. He says at the moment, completely bereft of any crisis and critical moments of his career. He said right now at KTM, once again they'll go side by side in the braking zone for this first corner. It's just going to repeat itself again. Marini just comes in. Acosta's gone down. Pedro Acosta has spinned it out of 2nd place. We've seen so many key mistakes, haven't we, throughout this season by Pedro Acosta. He loses the front then on the factory KTM into turn 2.
To the first corner, isn't he? He was right behind Aldeguer, front end washes. That's reminiscent of Bastianini's crash out of the Grand Prix here last year. That leaves Fermin Aldeguer with a 1.7 second lead now over Raul Fernandez.
Yeah, an incorrect graphic there. It was indeed the first corner where Acosta washed out the front end. So Aldeguer with clear road ahead of him, a clear road behind him now as well, with a massive lead over Raul Fernandez. History then in the hands of Aldeguer. Alex Marquez gets through on Luca Marini. Yeah, Marini's made a mistake somewhere. Bezzecchi and Alex Marquez have got through on the Italian. But history in the hands here right now of Aldeguer, on course to be our youngest ever sprint winner, capitalising brilliantly on that first ever front row start. Marc Marquez has just picked up Miller for 12th place.
Yes, and while we were watching the Acosta post-crash, it was clearly there where Marini made a mistake and lost not only what would have become 3rd place, but 4th in the bargain too. He's now 5th ahead of Morbidelli, Binder, Mir and Di Gianantonio. Fermin Aldeguer's best friend right now in this sprint is Raul Fernandez, who's running in 2nd place. Bez does the fastest lap of the sprint, even with the busy battle with Luca Marini. 2.6 seconds between Aldeguer and Bezzecchi. Is that enough time for Bez to close it down? He's got to clear Raul Fernandez first.
Massive mountain to climb, coming from 2.6 seconds back with 8 laps remaining. He's going to have to be going some. He'll be going gangbusters, isn't he? Bezzecchi to reel back in Aldeguer. Further back then, Marc Marquez in 12th place. What is going on with Pecco Bagnaia? What on earth is going on with Bagnaia? He's doing 32s. He's only just got into the 32s. We are on a lap 6 of 13 in this sprint. And Pecco Bagnaia is over 13 seconds. Yes, 13 seconds behind your leader, Fermin Aldeguer. This is as bad as brutal as it gets. This is humiliating for Bagnaia at the moment.
Certainly hope for Pecco's sake there's something seriously wrong with that Giganti, because he's 2.5 seconds off the race leading pace at the moment, and no Pecco Bagnaia, no matter how dark it's got for him this season, he should never be that slow. So partway then through, we're coming to half race distance now in this sprint. Aldeguer's lead is now continuing to hover around the 2-second mark over Raul Fernandez. Bez is only over, winning this sprint from here, subject to any sort of mistakes up ahead. He's clearing Raul Fernandez quickly.
He is paying dearly, isn't he, Bezzecchi? Were his sprint gold medal hopes here in Indonesia destroyed just milliseconds after it was lights out when he plummeted back down to 8th place. He's jumped all over the rear tyre now, fellow Aprilia rider Fernandez. We're on board with Bez, over the line we go. It's another best lap in this sprint so far from Bezzecchi, 1:29.654. So that's 4/10 recovered on Aldeguer at the front, 2.6 seconds, drops down to 2.2 seconds.
So yeah, what are we talking? We're talking 7 laps to go, 4/10 a lap, 2.8 seconds. So he can still catch him from there, but he is going to have to clear Raul Fernandez. He can't take as much time passing Fernandez as he took passing Luca Marini. Of course, every move he made on Marini, which failed, he cost himself even more time.
Pecco Bagnaia is 4.6 seconds behind Alex Rins, and Alex Rins was off the circuit on the first lap and turned 10 after the bump from fellow Spaniard Mar. Pedro Acosta's called it a day. He did briefly rebound after crashing his KTM out of second place at turn 1 a couple of laps ago, but Acosta has pulled in. You can see there in the top left-hand corner of your screens. So no points in this sprint for Pedro Acosta, no back-to-back sprint podiums here in Motegi and Indonesia. On board then with Bezzecchi through the left-hander, third gear we go through turn 12. We'll keep it bang left now through 30. You can see there just that little dot in the distance. That's your runaway leader Aldeguer, who's still keeping an advantage of around 2 seconds, 2.1 seconds clear of Fernandez.
Every lap that Bezzecchi spends behind Raul Fernandez is costing him any hope of taking that gold medal at the end of the sprint. Marc Marquez, meanwhile, is coming back towards the World Championship points. He's just passed Joan Zarco for 11th. He's now up behind Gian Antonio and Oliveira. That is the battle for the final point.
Bezzecchi is the only rider. Fair play to Aldeguer. He himself has now dipped into the 129s, and that's actually faster than Bezzecchi, who has just dipped back into the 130s. 2.1 seconds. Aldeguer was clear of Fernandez in second. Alex Marquez in 4th place has just put in his best lap of this sprint so far, but he's 2 seconds behind Bezzecchi in third. He has broken clear of Marini now. That gap between Alex and Marini is up to 0.8 of a second. Big gap then of over 2 seconds. Back to Joan Mir in 6th, who picked up that 6th place with a move on Morbidelli on the last lap.
Fermin Aldeguer has never won a Tissot sprint. Raul Fernandez has never been on a sprint or Grand Prix podium, so a lot to play for Fernandez too. He won't want to lose a front tyre and lose his bike here up against Bezzecchi, who's clearly faster. Bezzecchi looking to just park it on the inside of Raul Fernandez, who knows that he's got bigger fish to fry really in this sprint, trying to secure a bronze medal. Bezzecchi now clear in 2nd place. Has he left it too late though to catch Aldeguer?
Last time Fernandez was in this position fighting for a sprint podium, he blew it. He crashed out of the lead, didn't he, in Barcelona last June. He wasn't the only one who dropped the ball on that occasion. Brad Binder and Pecco Bagnaia also tumbling out of the lead in what was a very dramatic sprint. You just saw there emerging through the picture, going through turn 13, Alex Marquez, who, as mentioned, has got down to some pretty respectable pace, the low 130s. So now then, with clear road ahead of him, what can Bezzecchi do? Does he still have time on his side to reel in Aldeguer, who at the moment looks in cruise control at the front of this sprint, doesn't he? 130.382 is Aldeguer's pace. Bezzecchi once again then now, back in the 129s. Immediately, having got through Fernandez, he's got that gap down to under 2 seconds. 1.9 over the line.
We know Fermin Aldeguer is very good on his tyres, as Marc Marquez now comes through and Oliveira into the top 10. In the top of your picture, you're watching the battle between Mir and Morbidelli. That's Mir taking 6th place. But if Aldeguer is being very, very good on his tyres and he's got something extra up his sleeve, now Fermin is the time to use it, because Marco Bezzecchi is going to be chasing you down quickly.
That was a class move by Mir, that going into 16. And just look how quickly the Spaniard has gapped Morbidelli, who looks like he's a bit of a rolling roadblock at the moment right now, doesn't he? Frankie. He's got the Gian Antonio, Binder, Oliveira and Marc all ganged up right behind him. I mean, Mir only passed him on a lap and a half ago. Just look at already the big gap the 36 has put on Morbidelli. Morbidelli now is going backwards here. The Gian Antonio picks him off. Marc briefly was through on Binder, but Binder, you know, is going to tough it out. They almost rub bars, don't they, going down now into 11.
Well,
Gian Antonio goes immediately wide. Gian Antonio's gone wide. Digi was really wide going through 11, and that's allowed Morbidelli to come straight back on through. So all that that hard work Digi did to get up into, what, 7th. Immediately fires back on Binder, but it all went wrong for Digi going into 11 there.
And that's 8th now for Marc Marquez, of course, taking 2 places from Digi and Binder. Already on this lap, Bez has had half a second out of Fermin Aldeguer. It's down to 1.4 to the third sector. Another fastest lap of the sprint coming here. You can see the top 2 at the top of your screen. It's a 29.6 for Marco Bezzecchi. He is not out of this yet.
Alarm bells really do need to start ringing as far as Aldeguer is concerned, because Marco Bezzecchi at the moment is doing 29s for fun. 129.638.
Catch him in 2 laps.
That would have been good enough for 7th in qualifying that lap time. Absolutely amazing pace this as far as Bezzecchi is concerned. Already hammered down and disappeared ahead of Fernandez. Oh, dear me, Bagnaia, what on earth is happening? He's now doing high 139s, but this is the loneliest of lonely sprints at the moment for Bagnaia. He is 21 seconds behind Aldeguer. He's 8 seconds behind Alex Rins in 15th place. And a reminder, of course, we saw Rins off the circuit at turn 10. This is game on. This is game on. Fermin Aldeguer, what have you got in terms of creating history here? Because you're going to be asked some serious questions right now. Marco Bezzecchi, just a reminder, was 8th at one stage on that opening lap, and now he's steamrolling towards potentially a 3rd sprint victory. Aldeguer's got some big problems brewing here from Bez.
Talk about making life difficult for yourself, but is Bez about to pull it out of the bag here in this Tissot sprint? Remember, though, how difficult he found it to overtake Luca Marini earlier on in the sprint. Fermin Aldeguer, surely the incentive, surely Aldeguer is going to go all in here and risk it all to try and hang on to this. He's got 3 more laps to hang on to this.
It's perhaps just as well as far as the neutrals and the spectacle is concerned that Bez did bluff the start, because otherwise he would have been absolutely running right at the front of this sprint right now. So Aldeguer and Bez exchange high 129s. Yellow flags out in second to 4 once again. Johan Zarco. Well, Bastianini completed the unwanted hat-trick, and now Johan Zarco has done likewise. He was wide there, wasn't he? He was offline. You get offline here by millimetres in Mandalika, you're in a whole world of pain. So it's the 3rd crash of the weekend for Zarco. The gap then now between Aldeguer and Bezzecchi. This is as close as it has been. Just a smidgen over 8.5 tenths as they attack up into turn 10. Lap 11 and 13.
Aldeguer's got to stay off the green here. He's already got a track limits warning. That will definitely cost him sprint victory if he gets along that penalty from there. Give him so much credit, though. The young 20-year-old who has set, well, he got back into the 29s. Not a personal best, but very close to it. Responded to Bezzecchi's challenge. Only lost a quarter of a second on that last lap. So Aldeguer doing his level best to keep Bez at bay.
Once again, though, it's sort of sectors 2 and 3 where Bezzecchi is brilliant. Bez found almost 2/10 of a second in the 3rd split. Now he's charging once again back towards Aldeguer. Top 2 then in this sprint, about to complete lap 11 of 13. There's going to be 2 to go here, and this one is coming to the boil nicely, isn't it, here in boiling hot conditions in Mandalika. Aldeguer will lead Bez over the line. It's down to just over half a second. Oh, that could be a big lap that from Bezzecchi. He was on 129.651, which was almost half a second clear of Aldeguer, who's desperate to see the checker flag right now, isn't he?
Aldeguer is giving absolutely everything. He's launching this Ducati into the corners. As we see Marc Marquez now, he's passing Morbidelli on your screens. He's already since got up with Luca Marini, so Marc Marquez now into the top 7, potentially still a top 6 in the final 2 laps. But all of our focus now, with a lap and a half remaining, is on sprint victory. Who will grab gold in Mandalika? Will it be Aldeguer for the first time, or will it be Bezzecchi?
Marc Marquez on course for his worst sprint finish on the factory Ducati. Lap and a half remaining then here in Mandalika. Aldeguer through he goes into turn 10. Bezzecchi is just really warming now, isn't he? Coming to the rear tyre of the BK Gresini Ducati. Through 12 we go, 3rd gear, just about 150 kilometres an hour, then build up speed around about 230 k's on that short square of acceleration between 12 and 13, and then building up speed. This is where the corner speed of the Aprilia has been so good throughout this weekend. Aldeguer then now is going to be what? 1 lap away, 4.3 kilometres away from a moment of history for the 20-year-old rookie. He is 4.3 kilometres away from being the youngest ever sprint winner. Marco Bezzecchi was 8th at one stage on the first lap. The gap now done just under 3.5 tenths of a second. It's another 129 from Bezzecchi. Well, this is going to be a last lap thriller here, isn't it, in Lombok?
Aldeguer is doing a fine job here, belying his tender years, showing such maturity at the front of this sprint, doing low 130s. It's going to take something very special from Marco Bezzecchi to beat it from here, but Bezzecchi has had a very special weekend so far.
Yeah, and I think Bez has got something very, very special. Just look how much more corner speed. He's got better edge grip than Aldeguer's Ducati GP24. And this is going to be the first overtaking opportunity coming up for Bezzecchi as they charge towards turn 10. Quartararo has crashed out of 12th place in this sprint with turn 10. Was the opportunity, and Bezzecchi has taken it. He picks up Aldeguer in the braking zone, so having been 8th in the first sector after a disastrous start from pole position with, what, 7 corners remaining. Bezzecchi has hit the front. Aldeguer, though, trying to get it back going through turn 12. How close was that? Bezzecchi versus Aldeguer. It's going to go all the way down to the final corner.
Aldeguer was going all in. He's now got Bezzecchi wrong-footed. He's now going to get a run on him into turn 16.
Aldeguer wants history. Bezzecchi desperate for his third sprint success on the factory. It looks like Marco Bezzecchi has this one covered off. This has been one of our best sprints of 2025. Oh, he's going to be inches, isn't he, away from history from Aldeguer. He's just going to come up short because Marco Bezzecchi has delivered an incredible comeback here in Mandalika to take the sprint victory from pole position. Wow, what a sprint. Probably the best sprint we've seen of the season so far. Just over a 10.5 split. Marco Bezzecchi and Aldeguer at the checkered flag. Aldeguer, well, he led from the first corner to turn 10 on that final lap. So near, yet so far for the rookie. Another brilliant performance, though, by Aldeguer. He has to play second fiddle, though, to the brilliant Bezzecchi. Take nothing away from Bez. That was a sensational surge back through the field. Ralph Fernandez does take third place from third on the grid. What a day it's been for Trackhouse and Aprilia. Both Aprilias then on the front row of the grid. Both Aprilias claim medals at the end of that dramatic 13-lap sprint here in Mandalika. Alex Marquez, Mia Marini, Mark Morbidelli and Gian Antonio, well, they score points as Pecco Bagnaia limps home in an embarrassing, let's be frank, you can't sugarcoat it, an embarrassing 14th place, almost 30 seconds behind Marco Bezzecchi. That message, that poster said it all. Simply the best. It almost went, well, it did go pear-shaped, didn't it, off the line. Look at Aldeguer, got a superb start, didn't he, on the Gresini Ducati. Got the whole shot. Fought it out briefly with Ralph Fernandez for the lead, but just look how many riders came charging through on Bezzecchi's inside before he launched. Both Aprilias then on the front row of the grid. Both Aprilias claim medals at the end of that dramatic 13-lap sprint here in Mandalika. Alex Marquez, Mia Marini, Mark Morbidelli and Gian Antonio, well, they score points as Pecco Bagnaia limps home in an embarrassing, let's be frank, you can't sugarcoat it, an embarrassing 14th place, almost 30 seconds behind Marco Bezzecchi. That message, that poster said it all. Simply the best. It almost went, well, it did go pear-shaped, didn't it, off the line. Look at Aldeguer, got a superb start, didn't he, on the Gresini Ducati. Got the whole shot. Fought it out briefly with Ralph Fernandez for the lead, but just look how many riders came charging through on Bezzecchi's inside before he launched a quite sensational comeback.
Well, the top three finished exactly as they started, but that sprint was anything but straightforward. Look how sideways Bezzecchi was, and in the end, Aldeguer, who was trying to win the battle on the brakes, in the end, he was just forced out wide by Marco Bezzecchi, hung out to dry by the brilliant Bezzecchi. 8th partway through the first lap, just showing how much pace and how much tenacity he had in that Tissot sprint. Bezzecchi wins his second sprint out of the last 3.
Well, he has been absolutely awesome so far this weekend, has Marco Bezzecchi. He was supreme. He was so dominant yesterday to finish over 4/10 clear of Aldeguer. Aldeguer was his closest rival in this morning's Q2 session. Fair play, there's only really been Aldeguer that's had anything across the weekend for Bezzecchi. He must have thought, as he charged up towards turn 10, that there was going to be that history-making youngest ever sprint winner. It's a rather frustrated Luca Marini, who's now under pressure as well, under investigation rather, for a potential tyre pressure infringement. So that could dramatically alter the standings if he is found guilty. Of course, it will be an 8-second post-sprint penalty. Marini took the checkered flag in 6th place. Well, that'll drop him clearly outside of the point-scoring places, but it is a richly deserved gold medal after a gold standard performance by Marco Bezzecchi. Just an astonishing performance by Bez. Mark takes the checkered flag in 7th, although he could be promoted to 6th ultimately, as we keep an eye on Marini's potential post-sprint penalty. Hard going though, you can tell Mark had to work very, very hard for what could be 6th place.
It's a one-lap penalty en route, of course, after that incident on the first lap with Alex Rins. But the story really today is Marco Bezzecchi, who's looked at the class of the field all weekend. This is, I think, is the final lap when Fabio Quartararo went down. Of course, good to see what happened to him on the very first lap when he dropped to the back of the field, went down into turn 2. So in the end, weekend that has promised so much from a Yamaha point of view. In the end, only potentially a World Championship point for Oliveira if Marini gets a tyre pressure penalty.
Yeah, not too often you see Fabio Quartararo throwing himself into the scenery. Ralph Fernandez just collapses on the tank of the trackhouse at Aprilia. Fermin Aldeguer, well, he gave his all, just coming up short. It was so close. You kind of felt that Bezzecchi knew himself that he had to make the move at turn 10. It was really, he didn't want to take the risk of trying to send it on the inside of Aldeguer in those final couple of corners, because anything could happen when you leave it so late. A first sprint podium then for 24-year-old Spaniard Ralph Fernandez. A first podium of any kind in his MotoGP career. This is start number 75. What a weekend, what a day it has been for Aprilia. There's Raul's younger brother Adrian. I think it's safe to say. I'm sure most of you caught up with Moto3 qualifying, so we'll give out a rest for that. It's been a superb day for the Fernandez brothers, with Adrian on pole position in Moto3.
And he becomes, by my reckoning, Ralph Fernandez, the 19th different rider now to collect a sprint podium as they lift Marco Bezzecchi aloft. Of course, carrying all of Aprilia's hopes all on his own this weekend with Jorge Martin absent through injury. What a difference 7 days makes. Taken out at the first corner of the sprint last weekend, he left it until the very end of the sprint today to snatch victory.
He's done this before as Marco Bezzecchi. A couple of years ago he came from 9th on the grid to finish 3rd in the sprint with another heroic comeback. That was about a week after he'd had major surgery on a fractured collarbone. Sweat pours down the face of Alex Marquez. He rehydrates and takes on some vital fluids. 4th over the line was Alex. Important points in terms of the championship as he looks to consolidate and secure 2nd place in the standings on what was an instantly forgettable Saturday for Pecco Bagnaia. This time last week, it was Bagnaia who was celebrating a Super Saturday, pole position in Bategi, and he never looked like being beaten in the sprint in Japan, leading it from start to finish, but he was absolutely nowhere. Sure, there was some kind of issue that he was having to juggle throughout that sprint to finish 29.3 seconds behind the sprint winner in 13 laps. That's not Pecco Bagnaia at all, is it? You can just see we've only done 13 laps in the sprint, how sort of fatigued we've got Fermin Aldeguer and Marco Bezzecchi. What a moment though for Ralph Fernandez. What a day for Trackhouse and the Spanish rider. 3rd on the grid, 3rd in the sprint, his first MotoGP podium. Oh, he's left us. He's walked away. Where's he going? Come back, Raul. We need to talk to you. You've had a fantastic day. We want to hear about it. Ralph Fernandez and finally with Jack.
Raul, huge congratulations. A first MotoGP podium. What a journey it has been to this moment right here. Just how much does this mean to you?
I'm happy. I don't have a lot of words. Yes, I know that after 4 years here in MotoGP, after 3 with Aprilia, if I am today here, it's for all of them, sure, because they never stop to believe me and always they support to me. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Brilliant job by the 24-year-old Spanish rider. That's only his 3rd ever top 6 in a sprint. Marco Bezzecchi's already got the ice-cool towel draped under his Michelin cap. What a performance by Bez. He has had a dream Saturday here in Mandalika.
Just a little footnote, by the way, as to what you've seen today in terms of championship standings. Ducati Lenovo have today, through all of the drama, they have clinched the team's championship.
Let's go in here very, very shortly from Fermin Aldeguer, who was less than 2 tenths away from becoming our youngest ever sprint winner. He led it for so long until, turn 10 on the last lap. Second, though, in the sprint from the front row, and now he's with Jack.
I mean, we can see the emotion on your face. You've got so much to be proud of there, but what are the emotions like right now after missing out on victory so late?
At the end, we have to be happy. Stay another time on podium for sure is a big result, but after lead of the race with a very good pace, lost the victory in the last lap. For sure, it's not funny, but nothing. We have tomorrow another chance for sure. Better with Aprilia is doing a very good job. The last laps they was faster, but nothing. We try to improve a little bit more this afternoon, and we will see tomorrow.
A brilliant ride, well done. Thank you.
Yeah, there were 221 corners in that sprint, and Fermin Aldeguer led for 213 of them. He came so close, so close. His time will come, showing once again just why Ducati picked him up before we'd even started the 2024 Moto2 World Championship campaign. But so much praise, so much credit has to go to Marco Bezzecchi. It would have been so easy for him to have lost his cool, lost his composure, particularly in these extremely hot and humid conditions. But he was ice cool under the intense pressure. And Marco Bezzecchi is now a 3-time sprint winner. And he did it in such dramatic fashion from pole position. Bez, your winner with Jack.
Marco, the nightmare starts, but the dream finish. 8th on the first lap. That surely has to go down as one of the rides of your life.
Yeah, it was a fantastic race. Unfortunately, we have to understand what happened in the start because I lost a lot of time. But after I was so confident, so fast. And Fermin was already gone, so I didn't expect to catch him, but I didn't give up, and was fantastic. I'm destroyed, but was incredible in the last lap. I tried my all to go in, and I wanted this win so bad. So yeah, it was a fantastic battle. Congrats to him, but also to all my guys, all the Aprilia factory. I'm very happy, and now we think about tomorrow.
An incredible ride, well done.
Thank you.
Marco Bezzecchi. Just watching me launch away from pole position, when we can't really call it a launch, can we, as he starts to get swallowed up on the factory Aprilia. Immediately through came Marini and the Costa. Alex Marquez also came steaming on through, down to 8th at one stage in that first sector on the first lap. But this was the key moment, the sprint winning overtake made at turn 10, picking up Fermin Aldeguer, and then fending off the Spanish rider behind him in those final 7 corners to take the checker flag by just over a 1/10 and a half. I'll tell you that there was never really any doubt, but it certainly was. At one stage, he was almost 3 seconds behind at the sprint lead. Oh, he was so close, a close call for Fermin Aldeguer. And as he said, it's gutting, so frustrating to lose the sprint so close to home, having done so much of the hard work at the front. But he can take so much confidence and so much belief from what's been a brilliant Saturday for Aldeguer, second on the grid, second in the sprint. Just look how tired and jaded the riders are. They've got to go double the distance in the Grand Prix tomorrow. It's going to be a real demanding 27-lap Grand Prix of Indonesia, isn't it, here? But your top 3 in the sprint, thoroughly deserving their medals. It is Marco Bezzecchi, Fermin Aldeguer and Ralph Fernandez.
So at his furthest back in terms of time, and that was at the end of lap 4 when he was up behind Marini, Marco Bezzecchi was 2.8 seconds behind Fermin Aldeguer. He ultimately chased him down with 5 or 6 corners to spare. Well, 2 very happy people on that podium. I'm sure when he ultimately puts that silver medal around his neck, Fermin Aldeguer will make it 3. at the moment, understandably gutted to have come so close and fall short on the final lap, but he was beaten by a brilliant Bezzecchi today. He can certainly have no qualms about that. Many congratulations to Raul Fernandez. His weekend has deserved this. A first sprint medal for Raul Fernandez and a dream day for the Fernandez family in Mandalika. Second place for Fermin Aldeguer and a third sprint podium of the season. The two previous have been third places. This is second, a best sprint result. But he led for 11 3/4 laps, didn't he really, of that sprint. Second place for Fermin Aldeguer. Underlining that he was the only rider really to hold the candle to Bezzecchi here this weekend. After making life so difficult for himself on lap 1, Bezzecchi battled back. And in an absolutely thrilling sprint in Indonesia, it's gold for Bezzecchi and for Aprilia in Indonesia.
They chant his name, Bezzecchi, Bezzecchi, Bezzecchi rings out in the fan zone here at the Grand Prix of Indonesia. What a great reception Bez is getting, and rightfully so. Game on, isn't it, in terms of the battle of a second in this, well, third rather, in this World Championship. The gap between Bagnaia and Bezzecchi shrinks to just 20. Pecco Bagnaia having one of his most miserable sprints ever, finishing nearly 30 seconds back of his compatriot. The gold medal, though, dangles around the neck of Marco Bezzecchi, the 26-year-old Italian. His third sprint victory. Double figures now for Bez in terms of sprint podiums. That's number 10. He certainly hasn't had to work too much harder in the previous 9 than he did on that occasion. Pushed all the way to the line by Fermin Aldeguer, and he now gets to address some of our most passionate fans in the world. MotoGP mania has hit Mandalika, hasn't it, this weekend? 30,000 fans greeted Bez and co. and nearby Mataramani pre-events here on Wednesday. And many of those 30,000, well, they've made the journey here to the Mandalika circuit, where they have been treated to some show. The late show, as far as Marco Bezzecchi is concerned, as he passed Fermin Aldeguer for the win, with just, 7 corners from home. A popular podium, that one. Bezzecchi's brilliant recovery and comeback to take the victory. Aldeguer so close to history and his best ever sprint. And Raul Fernandez completing a fantastic day as far as the Aprilia factory are concerned. They might be under strength, but they're not under par, are they, at all? As Bezzecchi and Raul Fernandez start and finish the sprint first and third. There goes your podium Prosecco. And now they have to get themselves mentally and physically back prepared and back ready for a grueling 27-lap Grand Prix tomorrow.
Marco Bezzecchi, your sprint winner in hugely dramatic fashion from start to finish. He had to chase. In the end, the chase was successful. Aldeguer second from Raul Fernandez, first sprint podium for him. Alex Marquez fourth, which certainly boosts his hopes of finishing second in the championship. Mira Marini for Honda, fifth and sixth, although Marini is under investigation for a tyre pressure sanction. Marc Marquez on the road seventh, despite a long lap penalty for contact with Rins on lap 1. Morbidelli and Gian Antonio, your final point scorers. Pedro Acosta crashing out of second place, of course, during that sprint. Marc Marquez then, his lead is 198 points. It's all immaterial. He's already world champion. Pecco Bagnaia, though, now just 20 points ahead of Marco Bezzecchi. He could lose third in the World Championship tomorrow if today's results continue. Morbidelli fifth ahead of Pedro Acosta. He leapfrogs the KTM rider today in the championship. Raul Fernandez also climbing up one place into 12th. Constructors Champions Ducati, of course, on 621 points. Aprilia very much in the box seat now to take second. They're 38 points clear of KTM. Congratulations to Ducati Lenovo. They are the team's champions. They cannot be caught now by Grassini. Alex Marquez is now 148 points clear of Frankie Morbidelli. He could secure the Best Independent Rider prize tomorrow. And the independent team standings is very much in the favour of Grassini. Their lead over PR46, 121 points. Start of the sprint, it looks as if Marco Bezzecchi's chances of winning it had all gone through his fingers. Dropping down to 8th on lap 1. Fabio Aldeguer, your early leader, involved in an early battle with Raul Fernandez after a mistake in that final sector of the opening lap. Pedro Acosta also trying to get himself into the action. Taking second place from Fernandez into turn 1. This was the moment. Did look as if there was some contact there between Marc Marquez and Alex Rins, which saw him receive a long lap penalty. Bezzecchi through in the end on Luca Marini. It took him a few attempts to finally get the move done. Of course, one position he didn't have to claim was handed to him here with Acosta crashing at turn 1. Second place went the way of Bezzecchi as he corned past Raul Fernandez as Aprilia took on Aprilia into turn 10. And after a gallant defence, Fermin Aldeguer was finally caught on the final lap. Joan Zarco was never really in the action. He would crash out late on. Quartararo, another fall late. He would fall on the very last lap. This was what it all came down to, though. Very last lap and sniping all out of control at one point. Bezzecchi got it stopped and stopped the victory charge of Fermin Aldeguer. It was far from straightforward, but it did follow the form book in the end. Bezzecchi, the brilliant winner of the Indonesian sprint. Can he complete the double tomorrow? When we go double the distance, 27 laps of the Indonesian Grand Prix are coming up tomorrow.